Thank you guys for all joining the first Cosmo Campfire. I'm really excited to do this series and start bringing more awareness to the features that we have and how to use them and different things like that. I am Lexi. I take care of our customer success and support for Africa. I've been with the company for about a year now. I just had my 1-year anniversary at the beginning of this month. And I've been active within the Salesforce ecosystem for a couple of years now. For the agenda today, we will be demoing how to create a project from the Mission Control console. So we basically want to establish a best practice for manually creating a project. And like I said, if you have any questions or concerns during the demo, please enter them within the chat. There's also a Q&A box that you can use as well. Like I said, we want to establish a best practice for creating a project manually. There are other ways to create a project that we will discuss shortly, but not in great detail, as we will have further Cosmo Campfires to do so. We are going to do feature reviews on the launch project, which is from the launchpad of the Mission Control console, the project financials, the create actions page, the resource assignment wizard, which is one of my favorite features from Mission Control, and the checklist item manager. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So right now we're in the Mission Control app. I'm going to create a project here from the Launchpad. You can create a project directly from the project object. You can generate a project from the opportunity. There is a project request object. It might not be on the side here, but you can search it from the navigation menu where you can automate project requests, which this is going to be an upcoming Cosmo Campfire. You can mix and match milestone with the milestone loader and load in milestones from other projects, which will also include the actions and checklist items and things like that under the milestone. You can clone from a project template here within the Mission Control console. And then you can also create a project, then build it out with the project builder. In this case, we are going to do a Mission Control website build. With a project budget of 10,000. And here is where you will actually create your milestones for the project. You can add more rows as needed. And then we're not going to do the deadline field here. What's going to happen is as we create the actions that roll up into the milestone, these fields will start to be populated, or you can populate them later as needed. So as you can see, the total here equals to the project budget. And we're going to go ahead and launch the project. So before we actually add the actions to the project, we're going to establish the project billing information. If you were to create the actions first before you do the billing, then you will need to force a financial recalculation. And I'll just show you quickly where that field is on the project if you have this standard layout. So that's this field here. You can also use this field if your numbers aren't calculating right on the project billing information. Just go ahead and check that and then save. As of now, we are going to make this a fixed price project. And although this is going to be a milestone billing type, which means the project is billed upon completion of certain milestones, we're also still going to enter the billable day rate and cost day rate, because what this will do, and I'll show you this a little later, is this will define an hours allocated for the project. What that is a calculation of the project budget and the day rates. And it will give you a number of how many hours you will need to have logged towards the project to remain within the project budget. Moving forward, this is going to be a milestone project. We're just going to set the payment terms as well. We're not going to fill in further detail, as you would enter these fields as required for your certain project, but we will continue to set up the milestones as when you use the milestone billing cycle, you will need to establish a amount for each milestone that would be billed. This webinar will be recorded, so if I'm moving a little too quickly or you need further information, the recording will be available. So although this milestone has a budget of $2,000, in this scenario, we want to bill for not only this milestone, but the second milestone, which would equal $5,000. So we're going to bill for this milestone and a little bit more on the project. So once this invoice is this milestone is complete, we are actually going to bill $5,000 instead of $2,000. I'm also going to set the milestone sort order for the Gantt chart. Moving on, we're not going to bill for this milestone, but I do want to establish that milestone sort order. And lastly, for this milestone, the budget is already $5,000 for the remainder of the project budget to be billed. So we're going to invoice on completion. You can leave this filled blank and then establish the sort order. So this is the third milestone. Now that we have the milestones and the billing information set up, we can go ahead and create the actions for the project. Now, there's a couple of ways to create the project the actions. You can use this quick bar here. You can add rows here and then populate them. As of right now, we're just going to do one of the actions so you can keep focused on here. So I'm going to design the wireframes for the project, establish some hours. And notice when I pick a start date, the end date is populated. You can still change this, but it will automatically populate with the same date. If you have an idea of who the action owner will be for this action, you can go ahead and pick it from here. I noticed there's a question, comment in the chat that I'm moving a little too fast, so I'm going to slow down a little bit, okay? If you were to create an action owner or add an action owner here, and that's fine. You can also use the resource assignment wizard directly from this page. I will be going back to the previous page if you guys need to fill in anything. Once you open this up, it will establish the action owner as the current user, but we can go ahead and fill this in otherwise. In this case, I would like a designer who is also skilled in configuration to take ownership of this action. So we're just going to use the search filters here. You can also search by proficiency, the availability, and things like that here. So it shows me the best person to take ownership of this action would be Mick Fanning. And it also gives me an hours detail for his week that's assigned to this action, which is the 25th. and he's pretty available. So let's go ahead and drag and drop Mick as the action owner. There's also a search field here that you can establish an action owner and then add the person. I noticed that the action is 10 hours billable and 5 hours non-billable, which is not enough. He's only going to be able to work 8 hours in that day. So this is going to be a little bit too much for Mick. We're going to find another resource. So this time, let's search for a designer or a developer. So you can use some filters here as well. And that gives us a couple of more options for contributors. Looks like Barbara is available, so we are going to drag and drop Barbara and establish what hours she's going to help with here. So now that we have a contributor app added, I want to take a look at the hours distributor and make sure that both users will be able to cover the hours needed. It looks like they're going to be right at the cap for the day, so we're going to add one more person here. And it looks like the best person to do that would be Colin. And we're going to add him. All right, now that we have our contributors, let's go ahead and save and move on to the checklist items. So this icon here will be the checklist item manager. For the first checklist item, we're going to have Barbara go ahead and take over since she is one of the contributors, and she's going to design the homepage. You can click enter here, or you can also press the plus symbol to add the action, or I'm sorry, to add the checklist item. You can also add a new checklist item, which will create a row, but we're just going to continue from here. We're going to have Mick take over the content page. And we're going to keep Mick on there since he's the action owner, and have him also set up the contact us page. Now, there are also more fields that you can populate for the checklist item here, but that can be done at another time by editing and saving from these icons on the far right of the screen. We're going to go ahead and save this. And then I will get started on the remaining actions for this project. I am going to move pretty fast with this, so you don't have to, if you're following along, you don't have to create these ones. But I just want to also show you how this bar can help move forward quickly. So let's design the UI. We're gonna build the framework and build the page content. Prepare some training materials and then deliver the training. Now that we have these actions created here, let's assign them to the correct milestone. I'm going to set some hours. And then establish a start date. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to a couple of users. And then there's also some fields here that you can fill in for the action. We are not going to fill these items in right now, as this would be custom to your project and your needs for your project. You can create events from the action, send out notifications when the action is created, and a couple of other features are here as well. So now that we have our actions for the project, let's go ahead and save this. So you can already see a little change here on the overview. Now that the actions are added, you can see what actions are due, how many are completed out of the total amount of actions. And then we're also going to view the detail for the project, because now we're going to have some fields populated here as well. Okay, so now we are in the hours information tab of the project. You can see that 66 hours, about 67 hours would have been allocated for the project. We only hit 65, so we are within the project budget, within the hours allocated for the project, which is great. We're going to go ahead and move forward since we won't be billing from these hours, but just to have an idea of capacity for the project. You have your financial information filled here based from the billing and the cost rates for the project, and get an idea of the P&L scheduled, hours remaining, value, and for the cost, and for also the billable hours. As of performance for the project, we are within the budget. We are moving as according to plan. There's also a Gantt chart within the project detail, but I'm going to navigate back to the project overview and show you that you can also get to a fuller view of the Gantt chart from here as well. So this will give us a view of our overall timeline of the project. If you need to adjust actions, you can do that from this view as well. You can edit the milestone and actions from here. You can also edit the checklist items and like contribute to the size, change size and stuff here as well. This is another feature that we will do a Kosmo Campfire on to get into more detail on dependencies with actions, and just more detailed view of the Gantt chart and other features here. You also have the Insights tab, which will give you a quick overview of some of the financials for the project as well. All right, so we have now finished over the demo. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them into the chat or Q&A, and I will get started on those. Okay, we have one question. So actions can be reordered in the Gantt chart, but the reorder is not reflected in the overview. How can actions be sort ordered in the overview? So I'm going to go back to the screen here. I believe you're referring to the overview here. In the overview here, the actions will be sorted by milestone and then by date. There's also a sort order on the title of the action as well. Okay, another question is, can we add a time log and complete an action? So I'll go ahead and log a time to the action from here, from the utility. Let's do one on the design. Let's say we did 10 of those hours. I'm actually going to, I believe this might have been assigned to Mick. We are going to complete the action and see what that does for the project. Okay, so we can see here that one action is complete. And on the insights page, we will see this might be due to the billing type. So the CPI will identify how the action is performing against scheduled revenue. And it might be that I assigned the action to the wrong user that was assigned to the action there. But I will get a little more detail on that. I believe that was Velma, and get back to you. Once we are done with the presentation and the questions, I have a support list of links and things like that that I'm going to provide. So I will get back to you on that, Vilma. Okay, we have another question. Okay, Veronica says that she would like to see the hours distributor. This can be found within the resource assignment wizard here. So you can see how many hours have been contributed or would be contributed to this specific action. Okay. Just checking for any more questions. Okay, we have another question in the chat. I suppose that a holiday would move the action's end date. So in order for that to happen, the holiday would have to be approved. And what will happen is it will show as a grayed out date here. Let's go to the Gantt chart to see. It will show as a Gantt chart. I'm sorry, as a grayed out spot on the Gantt chart. It will reschedule according to the days available, the working days available. But there are a few settings in the control pad and on the action that will allow it to not reschedule if that was needed. So there's an ignore non-working days field on the action. And then there is a couple of settings within the mission control console that will show you. Okay, we have one more question. Okay, so we have another one by Velma. Could you please show the time based and how to move that base timeline on in regards to a change request? Since we're running out of time and I won't be able to create a change request, I won't be able to show you that, but I do have you written down, Vilma, so I will go ahead and reach out to you and get back to those remaining questions for you. I just opened the Q&A and it looks like we have some remaining here as well. So Veronica, I do have you noted on the questions that you asked to get back to you as well. Before we wrap up on the end of this, I do want to just show you a few resources that we have. as well. So support requests can be emailed to support@aprica.com. You can also submit a support ticket on the website. We now have a live chat feature. The webinar is only 30 minutes today, Brandon. We have a live chat feature on the website now. So if you have any quick questions that you didn't have resolved here, you can have them resolved on the live chat. I will be joining that shortly. The user guide and training videos can all be found on our website. Knowledge Base is a really great tool. You can type in a keyword and find a bunch of articles that will help and give direct information on a few features. Release notes, the learning portal, but we also have a chatter group on Trailhead. I highly recommend to join the chatter group as we release information on patch releases, bug fixes, huge updates, and things like that from the chatter group as well. Okay. Again, I want to thank you everyone for joining. We will have another Campfire coming up next month, how to automate a project request. I will show you how to build out a project builder that will create a project request and create a project automatically if needed. So we'll go into further detail on that. If you have any further questions or concerns, please reach out via live chat. If you need to send a support ticket, you can do that as well. I hope everyone has enjoyed this Campfire, and again, thank you for joining.